1. This happened only about 2 hours ago. For context, I work at a hotel bar, and usually we are extremely lenient with everything, and lots of rules aren't really enforced. One hotel-specific rule is if you aren't drinking at the bar or I cannot physically see you, you have to get your drink in a plastic cup, no glass. This rule hasn't always been enforced, and some of my coworkers will give it to guests to save themselves some time or grief. I, however, do not care. I'm tired of my wine glasses going missing, or me having to hunt them down, so I enforce the no-glass rule. Personally, I could not care less if you drink your wine in a plastic cup. I really don't. Now, it's about 9:55 at this point, and my bar closed at 10, and a guy in a fairly nice suit comes up to me. I do my script, ask what I can get him, and he says he needs 3 wine glasses. Directly behind where I was standing were my wine glasses. All 3 of them. I only had 3, but I still tell him politely that policy won't let me give them out because people tend to steal them or break them. I also just don't have enough. He gets a bit precious about it because apparently someone let him take them before, and I told him straight to his face that, yeah, I bet they did, and that's why we had to change the policy. He complains that it's really poor service on your part. So I stop and correct that no, I have no say in this, it's policy. He threatens to leave a bad review. No, not a bad review. I say I'm sorry your stay hasn't been to your standards. He leaves. I don't care about a poor review because I've been at my hotel for 2 years and never had a single one. They're not going to fire me over one if I ever got one. He walks away and I go back to putting my tips in. I look up a little later, and he's talking to my front desk manager, probably complaining or asking her to get glasses for him. She comes over to me. I say the same thing I told him about policy. She nods and presumably goes over and gives him that answer. He doesn't like it, obviously, and walks away to the elevators. I thought that was the end of it, so I go to the back and grab something with my server, since we are closed at this point. We were about 5 minutes at the longest. When we got back, I start cleaning, and I had 2 guests sitting at the bar right next to where I was cleaning lean over to me and say the dude who complained came back. Then she tells me that he proceeded to go behind my bar and grabbed 3 glasses, not even wine glasses, just regular rock glasses, and then took them back to his room, probably. We have a camera right over the top of the bar that covers the whole thing, and he walked right in front of it, stole from us, and then committed some TABC violations at the same time. By the time I left work, my manager had called our corporate head and got him reported to the company chain, and was working on having him, and his family, he was traveling with like 8 other people, ejected from the hotel. 2. So the backstory is crazy here, and the story only gets wilder. Small restaurant that does have a chain, but is being co-owned by 2 new investors who are quite young. It all started about a month ago when I was cut early by the owner of the restaurant, only for this manager to become irate at me for leaving early. This escalated without my knowledge behind my back, until apparently a gasket blew and this dude accused me of stealing one of his tables as a server and threatened to fire me. That was when I became aware of this situation. Owner obviously didn't fire me because I'm a good worker. I politely point out to the owner that I no longer feel comfortable working under this manager as I feel a hostile work environment forming. Well, lo and behold, he begins to start inflating my guest counts and nitpicking me on everything he could possibly find wrong about my work. Well, easy enough. I tell the boss under no circumstance am I going to show up if scheduled underneath this manager. I begin to take on more expo, foodrunner, and busser shifts because of said manager and begin to only work serving shifts Sunday and Monday, the days this manager gets off. Anyways, I just quietly sit back and begin to note down the fact that A, I requested not only from the owners, both of them, but also the lead scheduling manager to not schedule me with that manager, and B, how this manager treats others to see if I can claim harassment. You can guess who was scheduled with that manager, but what you wouldn't have guessed is that this occurred 2 weeks ago. I take that shift on the chin like a motherforking champ, but I skip my next shift scheduled with him. I politely notified the owners of this as well, and I thought there was no way for this manager to harass me as a foodrunner and busser, but apparently I was wrong, which leads me to today. Some of my friends, from a couple of hours away, decided to head into town, not only to see me, but others who coincidentally moved into town. I asked my other manager who I work under if it would be alright to take that table, as they're my friends, even though I was a food runner. They said sure, and the manager of the hour decides when my friends arrive to attempt to block me from serving them. He attempts to tell me that it is the policy of the restaurant to not have people switching jobs mid-shift. I just about laughed in his face, as the owners have personally asked me to switch from food runner to server and back before. I've switched to even kitchen duties from serving at one point. Anyways, I stopped myself from saying anything stupid, and had to compose myself for a minute. I proceeded to tell him right to his face I quit in the middle of rush hour, 6 p.m., and I proceed to sit at the table with my friends and begin to order beers with them. I made sure to tip my friend who served us extra well for having to deal with my crap storm that night. 3. About a year ago, my friend group decided to set up a Food Not Bombs group in our city. Free vegan street kitchen thing. Bit of a shaky start, but eventually we got into a groove with some regular dishes. None of us have any industry training, but the cooking group have all learned some damn good recipes that are cheap, tasty, and nutritious. In fact, it's the flavor we take pride in. Many of us have had to rough it before, and whilst most soup and kitchen charity trucks around here will keep you fed, having something cooked with attention to flavor is so damn uplifting. I get used to knocking out a consistent, tasty ginger sesame fried rice, become the fried rice girl, and everything is well in the world. And then it happens. A group contacted us and asked if we'll do a serve at some rally. We foolishly agree, and then later find out it's going to be something like 200 people there. Now is a good time to point out that there's 3 of us doing the cooking, and usually 2 or 3 other people helping with prep. Not today, though. The other 2 cooks are busy at their place making their own meals for the event, so it's just me and a friend helping with prep for the rice. Work out portions and figure I'll need about 5 kilograms of rice, an obscene amount of spring onions. Shallots are expensive and the flavor is close enough. 10 ginger roots, and 4 bags of frozen peas, plus whatever donated veggies I can fit in. One problem, though. All I have to work with is a 6-cup rice cooker and a small wok on a home gas stove. At best, I can cook about 15 serves at a time. And that's pushing it. I figure the best plan of attack is to do a few batches of rice, prep all the fresh veggies, seasonings, and sauces, and then just run batches on the rice cooker as I'd work the wok. Put on some suitable music, mouth sounds, mouth silence, and mouth moods all on shuffle, and get into a rhythm. But a few hours in, and repeating the same dish again and again, I feel something build up inside. I'm dancing more and more as I cook, singing louder and louder, yelling at the tofu to fry faster. Each batch is blurring together, I'm losing all sense of time, and it starts to feel like a bad trip stuck in an endless loop of pain. A thought starts to break in. You're not done when the food is. You still gotta clean up too. My soul is starting to break under this realization, then it hits me. I've been browsing Reddit for the stories for years, and I know exactly what comes next. Probably 4 hours in at this point, I walk into the garage and I scream, "Ah!" I've never made a sound so full of primal anger and frustration before in my life. But there is a pain that needs to leave my body, and it can only escape through cries of agony. There is silence after. I realize I've scared off all the birds in the trees around the block. Come out. My friend is staring wide-eyed. "You good?" she asks. "Never better," I reply. The pain still present has diminished, and I can get back to cooking. It may have cost me my joie de vivre, but at least the forking rice is cooked, packed, and covered, ready to head out. I have no idea how you line cooks in busy restaurants do this on the regular, but I have to thank you all so much for telling me about the walk-in scream. I underestimated just how much it helps. I could feel the anguish leave my body with that scream. I'm sticking to the street serves from now on. 4. Many years ago, I worked as a server at our favorite pepper restaurant that rhymes with Willie's. One day in the dining room during lunch, a couple with their toddler and one of the couple's fathers were sat in my section in a booth. The toddler was in a high chair at the end of the table. The parents got standard meals, the toddler got a kid's meal, and the grandfather of the child, the unlimited soup and salad combo, let's call him Kevin. It's maybe 1:30 p.m., lunch rush is over, but I and the other 3 servers still have 3 to 4 tables that are eating. Kevin has a Caesar and is crushing cups of clam chowder like it's going out of style. The couple are finishing their meals. The toddler has finished but is restless. Here is where the fun begins. And let me preface the rest of the story with this. I had been serving for a few years at this point. By no means am I an expert, but I have a pleasant personality and can be charming and can usually read my guests well. All that, and to be clear, I know not to put hot soup within arm's reach of a baby. So I'm bringing Kevin his 4th serving of chowder to the booth they are sitting in, and this is your typical booth that could fit 4 adults comfortably, and 6 if you wanted to be rubbing elbows the whole time. Kevin was sitting about 3/4 of the way into the booth on his side, with the couple across from him, and the toddler in the high chair at the end of the table in the aisle. Not wanting to lean all the way over into his personal space, I placed the cup of chowder halfway down the table, easily 2 full feet away from the toddler, within inches of Kevin's right hand. And I probably say something to the effect of, "How is everything?" This gosh darn kid performs a Herculean gymnastics maneuver, leaning forward, pushing herself all the way up out of the high chair onto the edge of the table, then proceeds to continue leaning forward, fully extended, reaching out her left arm, and plops her left hand into the hot soup. It was one of those "it all happened so fast" moments. I am thankful for many of my other experiences in life that trained me to act quickly in times of trouble, such as recognizing someone choking and quickly performing a successful Heimlich maneuver, same restaurant, or being able to recognize the difference between someone flailing around in the water and someone who can't swim. So myself and the 3 other adults at the table, I'm standing to the left of the toddler, all see this happen. The little girl lean over further than anyone could ever expect and dunk her hand in freshly microwaved clam chowder. It took about 1 second for me to realize what happened, and without permission or anything, I just reached out with my right hand and grabbed her by the wrist and forearm to remove her hand from the hot soup. I remember having the conscious thought, no time to get a napkin or towel, and just used my left hand as best I could to wipe as much soup off her hand as I could as quickly as possible. As one would imagine, even though I was not directly at fault and neither Kevin or the couple across from him lifted a finger, I began apologizing. After what felt like an eternity, maybe 10 seconds, the mom snapped out of it, and I passed off her daughter's arm to her and gave her a napkin, and she continued where I had left off, cleaning her daughter's hand. This is where Kevin comes in, and up to this point, no one else has noticed. Kevin looks at me and says, with his voice raised so that, well, he wasn't yelling, "Boy, you must be effing stupid." I am, of course, dumbfounded and don't respond. A child in need, I will jump to it, but when a grown man with gnarled hands who looks like a 20-year-old faded John Deere baseball cap, overalls, and a healthy southern accent speaks to me like that, I just kind of stand there. "You never put hot soup in front of a baby. Boy, if you hurt my granddaughter, I swear to God I will effing kill you." Everyone heard it. He wasn't yelling, but everyone heard it. He did not care. Meanwhile, this kid did not make a sound. Not one. Carefree as ever. The skin on her fingers was red, that's it. She was smiling throughout it as if we were just playing. So I immediately say, "I'll be right back." And I turn around and hightail it to the kitchen to get my manager. I find him talking to someone on the line, so I interrupt with, "Chris, I need you to go to table 26 now." As matter of fact as I can. He turns to me and says, "1 minute," and starts back into it with one of the cooks. Then I gently place my hand on the clipboard he is holding and interrupt again. "Chris, I need you to stop what you're doing and go to 26, right now." And thankfully he could tell that I was serious, and he quickly headed to the table. I did not speak to the table again. My manager comped their meal, took their info, and walked them out a few minutes later. They said they would be taking the toddler to the hospital to be checked out. The parents, I did not know which of the two of them was the progeny of Kevin, were relatively understanding. They were not outwardly upset. They said that while going to the hospital was a precaution, they were also going to reach out to corporate. All of my other tables were great about it. Even the couple of them gave me extra tips, saying they were sorry I had to deal with that. Afterward, my manager brought me into the office to look at the security footage, and right then and there he laughed watching it back, seeing this Amazonian child practically crawl across the table to dunk her hand. Corporate called a few weeks later to talk about it, but with the footage and my manager's report, no further action was needed. Never saw Kevin again, but we sure talked about him for a while. 5. I have a full-time job elsewhere, but I picked up this waitressing gig at a local diner. I was only there for about a month and a half total, so I was relatively new when I quit too. Nice place, been around for nearly a century, and only has had 3 sets of owners in its existence. These new owners, a husband and wife, are running this place to the ground, and it was obvious from day one for me. The husband used to work at my current full-time job, but he got fired for hiding bad parts. He also was a little too friendly and personal with us waitresses, and I decided I was staying the hell away from that guy. I'm not bad-looking, and I knew he liked me over some of the others, and I think his wife thought he was going to cheat on her with me, because she has been known for taking that paranoia out on waitresses prior to me. Nothing ever happened because, again, I stayed the hell away. I am not a drinker, so I already was not in the boys' club, so I would never get promoted to bartender ever, because I didn't drink with my bosses and co-workers. I just strived to be a good waitress and make as much tip money as I could, and worked my way up to bartending. Other waitresses would show up whenever they felt like it, and screw off and not attend their tables, and yet, when I am 1 minute late, or I went to the bathroom before being seated without my knowledge, it's suddenly not okay. Ha! Besides that bull above, there was no real training, health code violations up the wazoo, can't keep staff, 3 more red flags. I chalked it up to, well, I haven't worked in a restaurant before, but I have worked in healthcare food service, so my standards must be too high. I noticed people handling food without washing their hands, no gloves, waitresses making salads bare-handed with fake nails. Ugh, gross. So much more. Then it was bad sections that I discovered I was deliberately being placed in, with prima donna customers who don't tip for anything, all the kid tables. Meanwhile, the other servers are getting all these 8-tops of wealthy tables and nice customers. I was lucky to get 2 good tables in one night. I would get bitched at for asking questions about the menu for people asking about custom things, and, being somebody who doesn't take crap from people after a certain point, argued with the owners on occasion because they wouldn't listen to my questions, or they'd automatically assume I was doing something wrong when no drama was needed. I was as professional as I could be, but after the first argument, I noticed that inconsistent seating started for me, where my tables that could have given me good tips were being given to other servers higher in the pecking order. Then other nights I was overloaded with tables, and was shamed in front of customers for not keeping up with bussing my own tables when they could just hire a damn busser or give me time to keep up with tables before seating 10 tables simultaneously. Which, I don't know how many people can handle normally, but I was barely keeping up. I offered to even come in just for bussing. Nope, is what the wife said. Micromanagement is hardcore at this diner, and I was actually being told I was a good waitress who was attentive to people's needs at tables, but I was clearly being set up to fail. I had just gotten a hold of the point-of-sale system, which was already confusing enough, and I was also chastised for not knowing where the hell stuff is in the system, because again, it's confusing. I wasn't being treated fairly, in my opinion, and I knew that my time there wasn't going to be long. I figured they were sneakily driving me out, but I'm normally pretty stubborn, so I stuck it out as long as I could. A couple of weeks ago, I had to call in sick a couple of times because I was getting sick. Autoimmune disease means I'm screwed if it flares up. I was having a hard time walking, lumps in my throat, Still had to work because I couldn't get in at the clinic yet. The last night I worked, I was stuck cleaning the entire east dining room with no help again. I was crying from abdominal pain, moving booths and tables to sweep, and it felt like eternity that night because I hurt so bad. I went home, almost an hour after my shift was officially done, and told my husband what was going on. I had been overloaded with day shifts without a day off with the full-time job, and I was agonizing at the prospect of continuing the hustle when I was hurting so bad. Husband told me that he doesn't want me going back because he doesn't want to see me miserable anymore, and I'd barely been home for the duration of my employment there, which takes a toll when you have a 10-month-old kiddo at home. I decided to do something I had never done before. I texted the owners that night saying I quit effective immediately. I didn't believe they deserved a 2 weeks' notice, because I was treated so horribly. I knew that place wasn't working out for me, and I didn't feel right serving tables being this sick, which is what half the people there do. They get customers sick because they come in sick. What the hell? I have never not given 2 weeks, but I'm sure I'm coming across as thin-skinned or a wimp. I don't know. But I knew I wasn't going back to that place. I went to the doc the next day. I found out that I tested positive for mono, and the abdominal pain was from my liver and spleen swelling, and I am still out sick, and it has been a week since I quit. Still don't regret leaving. They already have hired 3 new waitresses because their turnover is so bad. They'll live without me. Someone else can deal with that bull. I'm not putting up with it anymore. I could be successful somewhere else, but under better management. But I'm taking a break for now, so I can be home with my kiddo more. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 261. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And support me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description. I should also remember to put a link to the second channel, where I post my more news-related and documentarian type stuff, if that's something you're interested in. Okay, no other business today, so let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, as this is a Spinning Plates video, we'll keep it food and drink themed today. What is a favorite dish of yours that's really, really easy to make, that you just don't make enough for whatever reason? Like, mine is mac and cheese. So easy to make. I wouldn't say it's no effort, but it's almost no effort. But I don't make it as much because cheese. And I can do a healthy vegan version of it. You take the cheese out and you just make a sauce with vegetables that tastes kind of cheesy, and it's nice. But it's just not quite the same. It doesn't hit the same. So I think I'm probably going to make some this weekend, perhaps. I'll get some mushrooms, maybe some hot dogs. I usually like to throw some hot dogs in there because I'm fancy. And I think I might do that this weekend. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. This one comes from Spinning Plates 199, and this is, what's something you've always wanted to smell even though you've been told it's awful? And today's answer comes from Sarah L. Definitely curious about fresh durian. Or durian? Durian, I think it is. But also, apologies for the morbid curiosity, the smell of dead or burning human flesh. I have read and watched countless murder mysteries where the detective claims they would know that smell anywhere. Smells like chicken. And I find myself wondering, what exactly is so distinctive about the smell of burnt or decaying people? Thank you very much for your answer, Sarah. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.